Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. This is a new episode from the color layering series with Hero Arts. Today I'm focusing on the moon layering stamp set, and while it doesn't look like much at a first glance, this stamp set has tons of potential and it is loads of fun to create with. Hi everyone, I'm Yana Smakula and I'm hoping you will love this video. If you do, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell too to be notified of every new upload. Join me as I test several color options and also layer options for this set and make 3 handmade cards. Depending on the colors you'd like to use for your moon image, if the colors are very light, you might want to start by stamping one of the detail layers first. I'm using butter bar ink for this exercise and stamping detail layer on white paper. I like to double stamp my images. Next, I'm going to stamp the other detail layer, but this time in a lighter ink color, soft vanilla. Because these ink colors are so light, it's hard to align your stamps if you start with the lightest ink color. So I prefer to start with the darkest one instead. I've aligned the layer, and here's a close-up. It falls into place perfectly, and the craters of the moon line up no problem. Look for these areas when aligning your second layer. I sometimes like to double check to make sure that I have it lined up perfectly and then stamp. I'm using soft vanilla ink color for the second layer on this test image. And once you have these 2 layers stamped, simply add your solid layer, aligning it according to the edges of the previous 2 layers. And now that we know how to align the moon image, let's go ahead and try some other ink colors and stamp some pretty moons for our cards. For my first card, I started stamping the moon image in the lightest color of ink, Soft Vanilla by Hero Arts. While I'm using a mini MISTI stamping tool, color layering stamp sets can always be stamped using a good old clear block. So please do not feel like you have to own this tool to get great results. While it is very helpful, it's not mandatory. The color layering moon stamp set has 3 layers, and unlike other layering sets, it offers a lot of versatility. I found that I can stamp just 1 layer for a solid looking moon like you see on this card here, and we'll go over this card in detail later on in this video. You can also stamp just 2 layers, a solid one and one of the detail layers like I have on this card here, and we'll go over this one in detail as well. And of course, you can combine all 3 layers to give your moon a lot of detail. And this is what we're going to start with. For the second layer of this exercise, I'm using butter bar ink and stamping it twice to have good contrast between the layers. If you find it hard to align your layers, you can start with a detail layer first and add solid layer after. And I share more about this process in greater detail in my color layering poppy episode. For the final detail layer on my moon image, I'm using pumpkin pie color. You can also stamp your moon in gray ink, and while I didn't explore this color combo in today's video, I look forward to trying it soon. This stamp set, like all other Hero Arts color layering sets, comes with coordinating dies. I've used mine to cut the moon image out. My idea for this card is to create a cloudy sky with lots of fluffy clouds in the foreground and a beautiful moon in the background. I have my moon created, and I just need to make the clouds. For this, I used another product from Hero Arts, and these are coordinating dies from the Sea and Sky die set. I'll use these cloud dies throughout all 3 of my projects that I'm sharing today. I will not be using the stamps, only coordinating dies. I die cut my clouds from several colors of cardstock from new Hero Arts Hero Hues cardstock, Arctic, Mist, and Paradise. I've stamped a simple sentiment that reads, "I give you the moon," in black ink on this light blue cardstock panel, and this is in color Paradise. Now, I often shift gears as I create and change my card designs. And so for this card, I decided I wanted to have my moon recessed. So I die cut a moon opening in the background panel using same coordinating die that I used to cut my moon out. To pop this background panel up on a card base, I made a layer of white fun foam. I covered both sides of fun foam with double-sided tape, and die cut the same moon opening, eyeballing the placement to try and match it up with my background panel. It ended up being not a perfect match, so I fixed it up a little bit using scissors, and here you can see the crude cut edges on the back. I adhered this panel onto an A2 white side-folding card base, and I placed the color layering moon inside of the opening, pushing it further back from the viewer. I wanted to have this moon far away and not on the same level as the sky, and using this negative die cut technique has helped me to achieve that. I also die cut same fun foam shapes for the clouds that I wanted to use for this card to add dimension to them and make them look extra fluffy. It took some time to figure out the placement for each of the elements, but once I was happy, I adhered the clouds in place. Where they overlapped my recessed moon, I also added a foam square or a half of a foam square to prevent the die cuts from sagging. You can see me adding a few yellow stars. I made those by ink blending butterbar ink onto white paper and cutting them out using coordinating dies from the color layering moon set. Again, I didn't stamp actual stars, but only used dies to create the star shapes. I sometimes like this look with less detail, and after all, it's just another fun way to use our supplies. Finally, to finish this card, I adhered a bunch of sequins from the Champagne Sequin mix. If you watched many of the color layering episodes, you know that this mix is my favorite one to use, and it's also my go-to one. It coordinates well with many different colors, and it always looks great on a card. Plus, it has some tiny die-cut stars, and these, of course, go perfectly well with the moon theme that I'm showcasing today. I also used a white pen and added several white dots next to the clouds and the stars to finish this card. A design like this can be easily adapted to a baby shower card or baby announcement, since the colors used here are so very soft and the imagery goes perfectly well with a baby theme. Just swap out a sentiment and you have a card for another occasion. My second card idea features a 2-layer moon, a solid layer and one detail layer. I went with slightly darker yellow colors and used butterbar for the solid layer and soft brown for the detail layer, and once again cut the moon image out using a coordinating die. To create a background for this card, and I wanted to have a dark night sky, I used one of Hero Art's bold prints background stamps, and this is the Starlight, Star Bright, and I stamped it in combination of Deep Ocean and Navy inks, using the Deep Ocean one for the majority of the background and Navy just around the edges to darken them up a bit and draw the eye of the viewer to the center of the card. I trimmed my background to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, so large enough to cover the front of the card, and you can see that I've already arranged the moon and the clouds. Now, my moon here is one color, and as I only later decide to stamp a second detail layer. Like I said, I like to shift gears and change things up a lot. Now, I like to edit my videos so that information is presented in a logical way and not always in a chronological order. So I hope that explains why my moon here looks different. Anyhow, I've also stamped a ladder image from the color layering moon set. I used Hero Art's Intense Black ink and cut the image out with the help of a coordinating die. Now I'm using my Copic markers to give it some color. The colors are C7, C5, and C3, and this is just some basic coloring so that the letter doesn't look white. I've updated the moon to the one with the detail layer, and I'm using glue to adhere clouds in place. The clouds were made using same coordinating cloud dies that I used before, and this time I cut them out of Hero Art's Dove White and Pebble cardstock, so white and light gray. The stamped background has a moon image built into it, and there wasn't a way not to stamp it, so instead I just covered it up with my actual color layering moon, and it blended perfectly with the rest of the background. Once I had the first layer of clouds adhered, I then added a second layer using foam adhesive to give my card some dimension. I rarely go for one-layer cards, and I always try to have some sort of dimension on my projects. With the clouds adhered, I stamped a sentiment in black ink in the open space that I had reserved. The sentiment reads, "Reach for the moon and the stars." Hence the latter image, as it helps to climb up high and reach both moon and the stars. Of course, I also embellished this card using same champagne sequins, and I scattered them all over the project. My final card idea for today showcases a one-layer moon stamped using just one solid layer. I already have the solid layer stamped in Butterbar ink. Now, even with solid images, you can still add some interest and shading to their edges with the help of a shade darker ink pad. Here, while keeping my stamp in my Misty tool, I'm inking up the edges with a pumpkin pie ink color and stamping this image repeatedly, building up color around the edges. And as I do this, you can see how the edges turn darker, yet the center of the moon remains light. As the ink dries, it will become even lighter, and it will also even out some more. For a one-layer solid moon like this, Hero Arts included a face in this stamp set to make a beautiful, whimsical moon. I used pumpkin pie ink to stamp the face image onto my moon. One other image available in this stamp set is a night hat for the moon. I've stamped it in intense black ink, and I'm using my Copic markers in YG14, Y17, and Y08 to color it. There's also a coordinating die available for the hat, so you can easily cut it out. My idea for this card is to add a string to the moon to make it look like as if it's being held from the ground. I'm going to stamp the string on the background of my card, but to make it look continuous, I'm also stamping a portion of the string on the moon itself. The size of this panel is 4 by 5¼ inches, and it's going to be mounted onto an A2 white top-folding landscape card. All I need to do now is adhere my card elements in place, starting with the moon image itself. I have the sentiment stamped to the left of the moon, and it reads, "Thanks for being there." And all of the sentiments that I'm using today come from the Hero Arts Color Layering Moon set, so you have everything you need in one stamp set to make beautiful cards. And this is something that I truly love about Hero Arts Color Layering stamp sets. There are always sentiments included that coordinate with the layering images, so you don't have to go looking for a matching sentiment for your card. Having figured out the cloud placement, I once again used glue and adhered everything in place. After adding the background panel onto a card, I trimmed the clouds going outside the card edges, and of course I embellished this card using champagne sequin mix and a few dots made using a white pen. I hope you'll give this idea a try using these or other stamps from your stash. If you do, please share online and tag me on social media. I always love seeing what you guys are making. On the screen, there is a link to a playlist with all of my Hero Arts color layering video series. These have tons of tips on how to layer images and have great results. Subscribe now not to miss a new card making tutorial. Thanks for watching, love you guys, and I'll see you next week. Bye!